Hey gang, Fraser here, fresh back from Essen Spiel 2016, which was an incredible event where I played a huge number of new releases. I originally wasn't going to make any post-Essen videos, but quite a few of you have requested that I just give you a few thoughts, a few ideas about the experiences that I had there. This video is about my top 5 most surprising games, so quite a few of the games I had read a bit about or at least expected something from them, and so this is the top 5 experiences that I had at Essen that subverted those expectations in some way. I hope you find it interesting. Sadly, we have to start this list with a slightly unpleasant surprise. HMS Dolores is a game that was essentially trying to distill down the mechanism of the prisoner's dilemma, where you'll be facing off a single opponent and essentially secretly deciding after a little bit of table talk whether you're going to try and steal all the cards that are on the table, take one and run, or if you're going to try and split them with the opposing player. It's a really interesting mechanism on its own. I don't know if it's ever been really fully realized in any game, although quite a few have tried it, and I've always been looking out for a really good implementation of it. And if there was ever going to be one, it was probably going to be this one, because it had some great designers assigned to it. Bruno Feduti and Eric Lang designed this game, and so to be honest, I had high expectations. I was hoping it was going to be a really good one because those are such great designers, great mechanism, and it just fell flat. It just wasn't that exciting. Now, to be fair, the one play that I had of this, I had a fairly small group, and so perhaps with a larger group it might have been a bit more interesting, but at the end of the day, when in play, I just wasn't that invested in stealing all of the cards. I just wasn't that invested in having them all. I think that the way that the Prisoner's Dilemma mechanism actually connected to the tableau building, to the set collection, I should say, just didn't work that well. As I said, this is based on one play. So that's what this list is. It's really just an experience I had at Essen. It's in no way definitive, and I would definitely be willing to play this game again, perhaps with a larger group, but this list is just for fun. But there you go. It was a surprisingly bad experience that I had with HMS Dolores when I was really expecting a really fun one. Okay, the next biggest surprise I had there, sadly, was also a little unpleasant. I promise that the rest of the list is much more fun and exciting. But Four Gods was a game that I was really looking forward to. From the promotional materials and the rules that I'd read, it sounded so exciting and fun. This real-time game where you're essentially creating a world by doing tile placement, which is a wonderful, fun mechanism anyway, but in real time against 4 opponents. Originally at the start, without necessarily having a goal in mind, but as you start to see the world being created, you can grab one of these gods and decide, you know, what kind of terrain you're going to score, which is just such an interesting mechanism. And then you're the water guy, right? So you want to try and make water, and if someone's just grabbed the water person, then you're going to probably not want to make water, you're going to try and make something else. So doesn't that sound fantastic? And it was fun, but it ended up being a slightly different experience than I was expecting, and ultimately a different experience than I was wanting. Rather than this quite frenetic, fast tile placement and seeing the world being built quite quickly, what I found in the one play that I had of it at Essen Spiel 2016 was it was actually a lot slower than I thought, because actually the tile placement is actually quite difficult because you've got quite a few different terrains and configurations on the tiles. Actually finding places for these tiles to be put out is quite difficult and sometimes time consuming. Quite often the entire map isn't built because you just run out of places to put the tiles. Ultimately, the whole experience was a lot more cerebral than I actually wanted from that kind of game. Not to say that it was bad, it is actually quite an interesting experience, but I wanted something quite different, and it was sadly just didn't deliver what I wanted. Interestingly enough, when I went into that game, I know that there's a timed element. Essentially, you can play a variant where it's turn-based, and you have a certain length of time to put down your tile. And originally I thought that sounded really boring, but having played the real-time version, I can now actually see how it might be exciting to play the turn-based version, because you actually have more pressure then. And the real-time element it just doesn't quite do it. There's long periods where no one's placing any tiles. So yeah, a little bit of a disappointment there. I was surprised at the experience that it provided. I would love to play this again though. It might have been a one-off, and so the designer's great. He's made some other great stuff. So yeah, I will definitely love to give this one another shot. Sadly, the experience I had at Essen just wasn't what I was looking for. All right, the rest are all good, pleasant surprises, okay? We've got the unpleasant ones out of the way. All right, Brotherhood of Steam is a retheme of a Seiji Kanai design, and I was mildly interested in checking this out based on really this semi-novel mechanism where you essentially, it's described as a hand-building game. So it's much like a deck builder, like Dominion, but instead of having an entire deck that you have to cycle through, you've just got a hand. So as you get rid of cards from your hand, you then pick up your entire deck, your discard deck, and put it back into your hand. It's quite quick, and apart from that, it really works just like a deck builder. But from the single game that I had there, it was really intriguing. You've got about 8 or 9 different cards that you can buy. There was obviously quite a bit of depth in terms of you going for money, so you'd have lots of money in your hand, or if you wanted to try attacking your opponent's hand to try and get them to continually discard cards. There were some cards that would, because you knew you were going to have them all in your hand, the combos are much more interesting. You don't have to have that fear of that card's great, but only if I've got this one other card that's in my deck in my hand. No, you know you're going to have both of them in your hand. So this was fascinating, and it was one of those moments where I was playing and I was like, why has no one done this before? You're never going to have a huge hand. It's because it's quite a quick game. And just so much interesting stuff going on in such a small game. Additionally, it was being sold for something ridiculous, like €5 at the fair. So much game for €5. I would have bought it immediately if it hadn't inevitably sold out as soon as I went to try and get a few copies. Fantastic little game. Keep your eyes out for it. I feel like this one might be going to fly under the radar, but really interesting novel design that has a lot of gameplay at a very low price point. It's being sold as Brotherhood of Steam from Hobby World. The vast majority of new releases that I played this year were obviously played in the halls themselves. But at night, in the evening, when the halls close, it's to the hotels with everyone. And there you'll get to play some of the new releases that people have bought that day at the fair, which is really great fun. One of those new releases that I played, someone brought out and I'd heard about. I wasn't that interested in, but I thought I'd give it a go. That game was called Habitats. And in this game, you're essentially building a wildlife park, and its novel mechanism, I suppose, is that you essentially have a grid of tiles that you could potentially put into your wildlife park. And how you get these is on your turn, you've got a little glass creature, and on your turn you can either keep it facing or turn it 90 degrees, move it one step forward and take whatever tile it's landed on top of, refilling the space that you just came from a bag, from a pool of other tiles. Then you take that tile and put it into your wildlife park. To me it sounded okay, sounded reasonably interesting. The tiles, when you put them in, they provide a resource to the tiles that are around it, and they also have a creature which requires a certain amount of resources from the tiles around it. So I started playing it and it was pleasant. I liked it. It was okay, moving around the grid, started building out my wildlife park, and then at some point I realized, hey, wait, if I take that tile and I put it here, I'm going to be able to provide the resource that animal needs, but then also the animal that's over there is going to need that resource too, and that animal is going to give that last remaining resource that this animal needs, and that's going to help me with this bonus scoring, and then I could get that tile that gives me bonus scores for these types of animals, and it all started clicking, and I really started to see where the game was, and the level of depth in terms of the type of park that you build, the shape that your park's going to be in, and how a single tile correctly placed could do so much for you. Then I started to see how debilitating, for instance, these roads tiles are. So you can have roads that bring people into the park, but you can't build any tiles around but give you loads of points. At the start they seem really good, but of course that really impinges on your ability to build out your park. Although I had some issues with the game, like for instance the graphic design's not fantastic. I was amazed. I mean, I was really impressed with it, and it really surprised me. It was a game that I had no real expectations of before I played it. Gave me very little for about the first half of the game, and then when I really started playing it, just gave me so many decisions. It had me itching to play it immediately after we finished. Sadly, I think that the release is quite limited, so I don't know how easy it's going to be for me to get that second play. But I was really surprised by Habitats. At least the second half of the game I had. It just bowled me over. It was so interesting, so much stuff to think about. Yeah, I'd love to get another play of this one. Keep your eyes out for Habitats. My most surprising gaming experience of Essen Spiel 2016, and there was no contention for this really at all. I knew exactly what this was going to be. This is the game Fold It, all right? Now, if you don't know, if you haven't heard about this game, it's pretty simple. It's a silly filler game, okay, where you've got a bit of fabric, and on that fabric are printed all sorts of different foodstuffs in a grid. And a card's flipped over, and there might be two, I think it's normally two, maybe three different foodstuffs that are on that card, and then you have to find a way to fold that bit of fabric so that only those three things that are on the card, only those three foodstuffs that are on the card are showing. And it's exactly what you'd expect. We went down, we sat, and we played a few demo games with the demo where you flipped over a card, and you'd go, oh, can I do this? Oh, can I do that? Oh, I flipped that over, and yes, and then you'd grab the token in the middle of the table to say that you'd finished, and it was fun, and it was, yeah, exactly what you'd expect. Then the demoer said, oh, there are hard cards, there are more difficult cards if you'd like to try them. And obviously the group I was with, they're like, yeah, of course, this is easy, yeah, well, let's do a hard one and see what it's like. Well, the first card was flipped over, and I saw it and I thought, oh, I know how to do that, and started making folds, and then realized that the two bits that I needed were on the wrong side. So I tried flipping it this way and folding it that way, and that didn't work, and I had to reset. And by this point, we could probably have played 3 of the normal cards in succession. It just took so long, and I just couldn't work it out. I just couldn't work out a way that it was physically possible to do it. And no one else could either. No one at the table was able to. So eventually the demonstrator had to show us a way that he could do it, because he was amazing at this game, obviously having played it for like 3 days straight at this point. And it even took him a little while. Well, okay, so we'd seen it. We'd seen one of these hard cards, and we'd seen how he did it. All right, let's try another one. No, just couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it. I mean, we spent so long trying to do it, and I'm starting to think, geez, I could be playing like Terraforming Mars in this, like the time that it's taking to play this stupid Fold It game, because it was taking so long to work out a way of folding this stupid bit of cloth in this stupid little 5-minute party game to match these hard cards. I think we tried 3 of them. I think there was one that I just about managed to do. One of my friends actually came up with, he's a gamer, right? So he came up with the gamer strategy. In this game, you basically, it's the last person that manages to get it loses, essentially. Everyone else wins. So what my friend decided to do was watch the demoer and then just copy what the demoer did, because then he wouldn't be last. Except even seeing the demoer and seeing how the demoer manages to fold it to match the card, he couldn't do it. So there you go. This game is exactly what you'd expect if you play with the easy cards. If you play with the hard cards, it's an incredibly mentally taxing challenge, which at the Spiel and running around, I was just unable to do. So yeah, definitely one of the most embarrassing gaming experiences that I've ever had. The demonstrator certainly found our attempts funny. And there you go. Now I've shared it with you. So be forewarned if you get Fold It, which I recommend, by the way, because it is a fun game. Those hard cards are going to give you a very different and very surprising experience. Well, that's it, gang. That's my top 5 most surprising experiences that I had at Essen Spiel 2016. I hope that you found that entertaining. I'll shortly be producing another video very similar to this one, which is my top 5 games that I had fun playing, the best games that I played at Essen Spiel 2016. If you'd like to be notified when that goes live, it should be pretty soon, then you can subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. And if you like this type of content and want to help me produce more, don't forget that you can help me out on patreon.com. Until then, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.